Never mind the paycheck, that's great too, but just the feeling that you get at the end of the day or after helping a patient, there's no price to it. Radiology has changed my life for the better. And I feel comfortable and I love that I have options. Sometimes you got to go out there yourself and find the opportunities or make the opportunities.
Hey everyone, welcome and thanks for tuning in to Allied Health Mentors. My name's Eddie and today I'm sitting with Jason Hernandez. Jason is an X-ray tech or radiologic technologist. Did I get that right, Jason?
That's good. Yeah, that's
Awesome.
correct.
We're going to get into that. But this is Allied Health Mentors. If you haven't tuned in before, we are a channel of Facebook and Instagram. We like to highlight allied health careers, professions, schooling opportunities so that you have the best chance to decide what you want to get into in the medical field and why allied health is so important. So if you haven't already, go ahead and click the like button, subscribe so you can stay up to date with all of our content. Jason, how are you doing today?
Oh, doing good. Doing good. Thanks for asking.
Awesome. Guys, Jason is X-ray tech. He is from Texas. He's not here in California where I am, so we're on different time zones, but he was awesome enough to connect with me and share his stories and experiences and kind of highlight what he has going on the X-ray side, because this guy has a lot of content and a lot of great resources for aspiring X-ray technicians. It's awesome. So Jason, if you can just give me a background, why X-ray? What made you get into this radiological field?
And great question. And first of all, I'm glad to be here. Thank you for what you're doing and letting me be a part of it. So great question. Radiology, not a lot of people know about it. Not a lot of people know about it, So growing up, I knew I wanted to be in healthcare. So back then it's usually a doctor or a nurse, what do you want to do? But none of those really interests me. Like I knew I want to be a healthcare. I want to help people. I just, doctor didn't sound possible because, it's 7 years of school and very expensive. But nurse, didn't really sound like what I wanted to do. So seventh grade, we had a project in science class. Teacher passed around a paper and had a list of careers. And she said, go ahead and pick one, do a research paper on it. If you could bring somebody in that's in that field, that'd be great. And you get extra credit. So I was huge into music. And so when I got the list, I was one of the first ones to get it. I saw the word radio on the list.
Oh.
I figured, okay, cool. Here's something to do with music. So, I said radiology. And so I picked that. And then when I started doing research, I found out real quick that it had nothing to do with music. It was healthcare related. And I started doing the research and it just sounded right, doing x-rays and you're in healthcare. So it was like, this is it. And so from the seventh grade, because of that project, I already knew that's where I wanted to go. So I went in there immediately. I stuck to the path in order to make that happen.
Awesome.
And as I went along, I found out that it wasn't going to be the easiest path, but it definitely had a lot of opportunities. So I stuck to it, and here I am today.
That's funny, and I think that's a great example of even as kids and as we inspire younger generations. If you see something that interests you, you saw radio and you just thought, oh, music, but just that small peak of interest and you kind of followed it and it led you down this path, I think is super inspiring. I think that's an awesome example for us to kind of reach out to kids and show them allied health careers, right? Because like you said, we're exposed to doctors and nurses, but what if that word wasn't on that list? What if radiology technician wasn't on that list? Who knows what path you would have gone on. So I think that's great. I said X-ray tech, but we were talking a little while ago off camera, and you gave me the proper term for your licensure and what it is you do. So if you can just explain the difference between a limited X-ray tech and what licensure you have.
Right. So I have an associate's degree. I got my associate's degree over at South Texas College in McAllen, Texas. So I'm a registered radiologic technologist. So what that means is let's say I work in a hospital. I'm licensed to do not only X-ray in the department, but I could go into the ER as well, do portables, or I could, take care of outpatients or inpatients. I could take a mobile machine, X-ray machine, and take the X-rays where they need me to take them. A limited scope is limited to just diagnostic imaging, not the fluoro, not the portables. So it's just and you don't go to school as long. It's a shorter time frame, but there's a lot of opportunities within a limited scope, including working at a doctor's office, imaging centers, or instructors. You're still an X-ray tech. It's just you're limited. You're within a limited scope.
Okay, awesome. And so you mentioned instructor. We're talking that you've had the opportunity to become an instructor, but before you became that instructor, what kind of experiences did you have leading up to this? Where did you start? What opportunities and fields did you work in? How did that go for you?
All right, great question. Okay, so during the program, you do externship, and it's pretty full time. Like it's Monday through Friday, and you're there. So I got early experience in the hospitals. We rotate in hospitals. You're pretty much there for a full semester. And here in South Texas, we have a lot of hospitals. So I was in hospitals, also imaging centers. So I got a lot of experience there. During the hospitals, or everywhere I went, I wanted to gain the most experience possible. So I was everywhere. I was ER. I was in the department doing portables, CT, MRI, ultrasound, surgery. I loved being in surgery when I could, and everything else, whatever I could get into, I was there. Nuke med, I was there whenever I could be. So I gained a lot of experience there. And then when it came down to, okay, I'm almost done with school and where do I want to go? I broke it down to two. The ones that got me most interested was surgery. So if I was going to be in the hospital, I wanted to do surgery. And the other one was doing mobile, because I just loved the fact that I could drive around, listen to my music, and do x-rays. Like that just really sounded good. And I was very young. I was in my 20s. And I didn't really want to be in one place. That was the big thing. I didn't want to come to the same place every day. Like I wanted to explore, I wanted to, learn as much as possible. So those two made the most sense. And an opportunity came very early for mobile. I took it and I fell in love with it. So I did that for over 6.5 years. Very challenging, and a whole different animal. They don't train you to do mobile in school. So you basically have to learn a lot of it on the field. And that's what I loved about it.
So when you say mobile, you were going to different facilities, right?
Yes.
Did you have like a portable x-ray machine then, or how did that work?
Yes. So in the hospitals, we have a portable, right? So we call those portables, which are big. They're huge machines. For mobile, it's a smaller version of that machine. So it's easier to lug around. You could carry it around. So you put it in a vehicle and then you would unload it and then you have to take it. So I would do x-rays at people's homes, but we would also go to nursing homes. And then I would also go into other facilities like, county or juvie, wherever x-rays were needed.
That's interesting. So I'm a phlebotomist and we have mobile phlebotomy. It's kind of similar. We take our equipment with us and we go, maybe not into jails, but we go into people's homes, offices, rehabilitation centers, assisted living, things like that. And I think now after COVID, post-COVID, I think the mobile industry, the mobile diagnostic industry is going to grow and it's going to boom because people don't want to go to the lab. They don't want to go outside of their home. They see the dangers of being exposed to other people and diseases and viruses. And so I think that's definitely going to be something that's going to grow. And especially with just like the convenience, right? The whole idea of like Uber and Grubhub and having things come to you is definitely entering the medical field. So I love that you talked about that, because I think as technicians, as young technicians,
Mhm.
we kind of just think, oh, I have to stay in a hospital or in a clinic,
Right.
but we don't think outside of the box. And we don't think that we might have opportunities to drive out of our area and network and connect with different facilities. And that can open a lot of doors for you. And I think it has for you, definitely. And something I wanted to point out is you talked about the mobiles inside of a hospital. Now, I think the awesome thing about a lot of allied health professions, like, phlebotomy, X-ray, and maybe respiratory, is that you're utilized not only in emergency department, but they might need you in med surge, or they might need you in telemetry, or they might need you in some other part of the hospital. Um, what is that like to have to transition throughout the hospital and be in emergency one moment and then go into med surge the next? Are you always on your feet? We talked about X-ray techs kind of being in their own little cave sometimes because they're in their X-ray room. If you can just give some insight on working in a hospital.
Yeah. So a hospital setting is awesome, and I get it. I get why a lot of people want to be in the hospitals. Um, I loved it. I loved being in the hospitals. It was awesome. It was definitely not boring. It has its challenges. 1 minute you're in the ER, the next minute, you're just X-raying somebody that walked in, and this is outpatient, and they just need a chest X-ray, right? So you gotta radiology already has its challenges. So you're messing with fluoroscopy equipment, and then you're messing with the regular, X-ray equipment. Now you're working with a portable machine. So you got to be able to adapt to all of those, right? So, and then you got to be able to adapt to patients too, because you're dealing with a very severe case over here in the ER, and then maybe one not so severe. So you just got to be able to switch your mindset. If you just, somebody didn't make it over here, and now you're in front of, a 2-year-old, 3-year-old kid, and you got to put on a smile and, hey, how you doing, little buddy?
Yes.
How you doing today? So, it could be stressful. Let's just keep that in mind. X-rays are cool, but it's challenging, and it could be stressful. But if you love what you do, if you love it, then that's what's going to drive you. So that's what drove me, and keeps me open to the challenges. If you look at it from the money point, anything in healthcare, if you just look at it from the money, like, oh, it makes good money, let me do it because it makes good money, you're going to find that it's very hard. It's very difficult, because there's nothing pushing you except for the money, the paycheck, So I found it fun and exciting. But you got to have that ability to be versatile and be able to, put some feelings behind, because you got some patients in front of you that need you to come through.
Definitely. And I think that's a great point. Maybe people, when they think X-ray, they think like of an X-ray tech in a clinic, and maybe they're going in with that mindset. But that's also the beauty of this field, is that it's so broad, right? So if you don't like the hustle and bustle of a hospital, and maybe you can't handle, like you said, seeing a patient pass, or seeing a patient who's really in a grave condition, then that's fine. You can go and work in a clinic. But if you like that excitement and the adrenaline and being part of the medical team, then you have the opportunity to work in that hospital. And that's something that maybe not a lot of people think about when they're getting into this field. So I love that you brought that up. Now, my past experience, I've worked in a trauma center, I've worked in the emergency department, and we were talking about this a little earlier. Is every time I saw the X-ray guys, the radiology guys, they're very cool, calm, collect. Right? They just came in, they brought their machine, their mobile machine with them. It's a huge machine, guys. If you've never seen it, it's like this big thing, and it looks very heavy to push, but apparently there's like a motor on it. It's almost like a little scooter that goes like 1 mile per hour. But they would come in and they push that, and they kind of just hung out on the side. And when the doctor was ready for them, they'd say, okay, let X-ray in. And they would come in, and X-ray would set up, manipulate the patient, whatever they had to do. And then as soon as they were ready, they would say X-ray, or clear the room, or, they really took command of that space. And for that minute or two, X-ray took over that trauma bay, or X-ray took over that patient's room and did what they had to do. Do you have any experiences going in with traumas and manipulating those patients? I was kind of wondering, because I've seen some bad car accidents. I've seen some gunshot wounds, stab wounds. When you have a patient who's in pain, how are you able to manipulate them? What things do you have to take into consideration?
Yeah, that's a great question. So when you train in the classroom, right, you're training with a student, right? They walk in and you could talk to them and they already know more or less what to do. And it's a different story with the real patient. And then it's a different story when it's a patient in trauma,
Mhm.
because the slightest movement can be fatal, or cause more injury to the patient. Um, so you have to really think outside the box. Like,
Mhm.
this is what we got taught in school. This is what the book says. But how do I get that position with this patient in this situation that I'm in now? So you got to think
Mhm.
fast. So that's, again, something I love to do, and you get very creative. Um, and you're processing all this in a very short period of time,
Mhm.
right? And they're waiting for that X-ray. So yes, I've been in those situations, and when I was a student,
Mhm.
right? So even more pressure. Um, but you quickly kind of got to put that away. Like, you got to put that away. Like yes, I'm a student, but I got to learn, and the only way I'm going to learn is if I get in there. It's a different story when you're watching it happen, and a different story when you're actually participating in it. So I participated as much as I can, and I thank all the technologists that let me shadow them for trusting me, to do that. But you definitely got to try to earn that trust, and ask for it. It's not always given to you. So in those situations, you got to go forward. You got to push forward and say, "Look, let me try this out. Let me see what I could do, or let me help you. How can I help you?" And so for me, and I hope this doesn't come off wrong, but I looked forward to those situations so I could learn. But even though that's somebody, right? That's somebody that came in. So I would try to jump on those situations every chance that I could. But
Mhm.
at the same time, you're hoping you don't get too many more of those situations,
Right.
because these
Yeah.
are our people, our community. So
And I can relate to that because I feel like you're there to help people in their hardest times, right?
right,
But you also don't want those hard times to happen. You know,
correct.
it's exciting, it's exciting. You have a story to tell, you learn a lot, right? And you're prepared for the next time that happens, but you never wish for it to happen. But
No,
obviously it's a great opportunity to learn, and really be there for someone and care for them when they can't care for themselves. So I totally relate with what you're saying. On a lighter note, something that's different about X-ray techs than everyone else is that you guys wear like this little thing on your badge or on your shirt. What is that? Can you explain that to me?
yeah, that's a great question, and I got one. Now, this is not. I mean, there's something missing from it, but this is
Okay.
dosimeter. This is just the. But yeah, you could always tell who's an X-ray tech because they're carrying this and they have it here,
Mhm.
right? So I wore one of these for years. So this basically just measures how much radiation that you've
Mhm.
been exposed to, because we're around radiation, and the thing with radiation is you can't see it, you can't smell it, you can't taste it, but it's there. And radiation can have negative effects. So we know that from history, we know that from the science. Um, so, somebody who's around radiation on a regular basis, right, more than the average person, we need to be able to track how much we're being exposed to on the job. So that's what a dosimeter does. It helps monitor how much radiation we're getting exposed to, and it could help us let us know, hey, we need to be safer around this, or we're doing exactly what we're supposed to be doing, and keeping our exposure to a minimum. So in short, that's what it is.
Okay, awesome. And another thing that X-ray techs can be exposed to is tuberculosis, right? Because anytime someone comes out with a positive PPD or a quantiferon, they come to an X-ray tech. Are you guys alerted ahead when someone might be positive for TB, and do you guys take precautions in that case?
That's a very good question. Now, pre-COVID,
Hmm.
pre-COVID, I mean, in school you're taught your standard precautions,
Hmm. Right.
right? And you never want to put your guard down. Never it's easy to put your guard down,
Hmm.
because somebody comes in and they look clean, or but you never know. You never know. So tuberculosis has been around, and it's highly
Hmm.
contagious. Um, so, and you're right. If somebody does a PPD test and they come out positive, X-rays the next step.
Hmm.
So there's a lot of chest X-rays for TB, to rule out TB. So we could get an order that says chest X-ray positive PBD or tuberculosis. So the X-ray is there to rule out. So they might be positive or it might be negative, right? So we don't know. But yeah, absolutely. There's been patients that are positive and we're there with them. So practicing your standard precautions and our job is very hands-on. So we're there with them. We're positioning them and so you're there with them. Back then, it wasn't very normal to wear a mask, or if you did, sometimes people would get offended and
Yeah.
you'd have to kind of explain, this is for my safety or this is for your safety. But now, because of COVID, it's become more normal, which is awesome. It'll be very good for us in the future as well. If we can continue these standard precautions and people are just more understanding about why we do certain things, then we could prevent spread of not only COVID, but tuberculosis and everything else that's on the list,
Right.
that's been there. So great question. I hope I answered the question.
No, that was great. That's great. I think it was a great point you made. Isn't it funny that just, a little over a year ago, we would offend people by wearing masks, right? And I remember that too, because I would go into isolation precaution rooms and the patient or the family would look at us and they'd be like, why are you gowned up? Why do you have, this? Why don't I have a gown? I don't need a gown, but now post COVID, it's the standard precaution. Right now, everyone wears masks, and before it was like, oh, I need to get my flu shot because if I don't, I have to wear a mask all day, and that's weird. So that's an interesting point. And I think people forget that although tuberculosis isn't very common in the United States, it might be more common, in places like the Philippines or Thailand or the Middle East. I used to work in the public health department, and it wasn't uncommon for us to get a report of a flight coming in that had someone that was positive for tuberculosis. So it's interesting that as healthcare professionals, you're trained and it's almost normal for you to come across these things, but the rest of the population wasn't prepared for COVID. The rest of the population didn't know what to do when COVID hit. But we had a little bit of an understanding and upper hand and, I guess that confidence on how to deal with things like this. I wanted to come back to your credentials and your certification. Now, you talked about your schooling a little bit. You said you have your associate's degree. That program, I'm assuming, was about 2 years?
Yes, 2-year program. Full 2 years. Full 2
2 years. And then what did you have to do after you finished that program? Was there a test you had to take? Do you have to maintain a licensure? Is it state? Is it national? If you can give some insight on that.
Yeah, great question. So yeah, just getting accepted to the program is part of it. Completing the program is another part of it. What I say the finish line is getting, passing your state exam, which is a ART state exam, which is the American Registry of Radiologic Technologists. So, Texas requires you to have a license in order to practice, right? So whenever you go out for a job, that's what they're going to ask you for. Do you have your license? So as soon as I finished the program, they always recommended, okay, sit down for the state exam as soon as possible while the information's fresh and you have a better chance of passing, because every day that passes or every week that passes, you're going to lose information or it's going to be harder to retain. So the whole 2 years from day one to the last day, you needed everything in order to pass that state exam. And so that's exactly what I did. As soon as I finished, before I even went looking for a job, it was like, let me get this license thing first. And then from there, when I go and start applying, I have that to back me up, or I have that to pull up, yeah, I took my state exam in a testing facility over in Corpus Christi. I borrowed my mom's van. I told 3 other classmates, I said, hey, look, guys, I can get my mom's van. Let's all pitch in for gas. Let's pitch in for a hotel, and let's go together. So the whole drive over there, we studied, and you're talking about, guys in their 20s, going to Corpus, we could have easily done something else, but we stayed focused. And even when we got to the hotel, we all pitched in, so we got a very nice place. But it was like, all that didn't matter. It was like, okay, we're going to study. We're going to wake up early and let's show up on time and let's take care of that state exam. So all 4 of us went, all 4 of us passed. And
Awesome.
so I'm licensed. Once you're licensed, you have to maintain your license. For RTs, it's every 2 years, and you need
Mhm.
24 hours of continuing education.
Awesome. How far are you from Corpus Christi?
So Corpus, oh man, I should know this. About 3 hours.
Oh wow, that's pretty far.
Yeah, about
Yeah,
3 hours.
Texas is huge. I forget how big Texas is. But my family were big Selena fans, so
Right.
we know Corpus. Okay, so
We all
just
know.
yeah, right. Just go back on that test and those exams. Now, if you wanted to move out of state, like
Right.
let's say you wanted to come to California and work, is that something that you can do easily, or what's the process?
So that's a great question. So because California also requires a license,
Mhm.
right? And I already have a license over here in Texas. It wouldn't be as difficult for me to do
Mhm.
that,
Okay.
right? And it is very possible. Um, and California, I love California. Just shout out to California. I get a lot of responses from California, so I
Mhm.
appreciate all the love from California. Um, so yeah, like if I was interested in going and working there, it's very possible because I'm licensed here, and then I
Mhm.
would just have to do what I have to do, whatever the state wants me to do, and I could get that done. Some states don't require licenses,
Mhm.
or some might be easier to get into, but Texas and California, are probably some of the more stricter states as far as licensing goes. Um, but yeah, absolutely, that's a huge benefit of being licensed and being in these kind of fields. Is you can move around. You can move around.
What opportunity? So do you think there's a lot of opportunity in your field right now? Like if I was coming out of high school, would you tell me that this is a great field, it's expanding? Um, so yeah, what opportunities are there? Is it growing? But also, what opportunities for advancements are there? So I know it might not be in the same field, but if I wanted to go and do CAT scans or MRIs, or if I wanted to go into sonography, would X-ray technologists be in that path, or is it in that same field?
Very good question. So I'm gonna start with one question first.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was going to school, I heard some text saying that, hey, be ready because there's not a lot of opportunities,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and they would tell me these things, and I'd be like, I wouldn't really listen to it, for whatever reason. They'll tell me that, but I never took it seriously. I said, you know what, I'm gonna make opportunities. You don't just sit around and look at the newspaper or check websites, see if they're hiring. Sometimes you got to go out there yourself
Mm-hmm.
and find the opportunities or make the opportunities. And that's what externship gives you the ability to do. You're making a name for yourself. You get yourself in front of other people and maybe start getting references. So that's what I was always told. And now what I'm preaching to everybody is you have no idea how many opportunities there are in radiology. Like, there's so many. And I highly recommend going into radiology, and I'm not threatened by telling people that, like I'm not worried that I'm going to lose my job or there's not going to be no jobs for me. I preach, look, radiology has changed my life for the better. And I feel comfortable and I love that I have options. Those are the things that get me excited, and I'm young and I have a lot of time to choose different options, right? Like if I want to go to California, it's just a conversation and maybe let's make it happen, right? Let's do that. And I don't know if there's a lot of other fields that can do that, right? So yes, an associate's degree alone, there's so many opportunities. And this is why I push, if you're limited scope, great. There's a lot of options there too. But once you go into the RT, there's way more. It just opens up way more. So if you want to go into CT, right, which is not going to go anywhere. CT is growing all by itself, high demand, and you need to be licensed in order to operate that. So they can't just hire anybody. They need somebody who's licensed. So you could do X-rays and CT. That's a lot of value. There's a lot of places that could use somebody like that. But let's say CT is not the one that got you interested. Like, nah, CT doesn't, I don't want to do that. Okay, MRI. MRI is not going to go anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
We're learning more and more that we need MRI. MRI is getting better. better and better. Man, these images are incredible images that are coming out of these newer systems. So they need people to operate those. When these big companies make these newer, bigger equipment, they want the right people behind them, right? So that's already CT that you could go into. That's already MRI you could go into. Nuclear medicine is another one. Mammography, if you think about breast cancer, there's a whole month dedicated to breast cancer and mammograms, right? So that's X-ray. Ultrasound's huge. And you're not using any radiation there. You're using ultrasound, but it's still diagnostic imaging.
Right.
And then there's other ones that don't get noticed, like interventional radiology, mobile. Nobody really preached mobile to me. I had to go and do it, find it myself and train myself, which just mobile alone. And to piggyback what you said earlier, yeah, a lot of opportunity in mobile. And I'm glad I already have almost 7 years experience on that. It's a different animal though. Each one of those are different animals. So, you got to be ready to learn that one now. Mobile or CT or MRI, they're not all the same, but you have the options to branch out to one of those if you want to, or multiple ones. You could actually be multi-modality tech. So hopefully I answered that question. A lot of opportunities, and it's growing. It's growing.
Definitely. And I love that you preach that with so much enthusiasm, because I tell people the same thing about phlebotomy. When I got into phlebotomy, I never would have imagined the opportunities that I've had, the experiences, where I'm at now. I never would have thought I'd get to where I am now, or doing this. I never thought that something like this would come from it. But it's about those opportunities that you create for yourself. Okay. So, and I think that's very true for a lot of allied health professions, because it could be us, it can be a sonographer, it could be a CNA, going into nursing. You create your opportunities. But you're right, if you just sit there and you wait for them to come to you, then you're going to be one of those people saying that, oh, I couldn't find a job after a year, so I'm going to go do something else. And you never reach your full potential. So I love that you preach that. Before I let you go, and I know I've had you on here for a while, I wanted to talk about your initiative, yourxraytech.com, your X-Ray Tech Instagram. What is that? How can people find out more about it? Why did you start it? Can you tell us about that venture that you have going on?
Cool, thanks. So yeah, I was in the field, and even as a student, I would get a lot of questions from patients or other healthcare professionals about the field. So I found myself answering the same questions over and over and over, and I loved it. I enjoyed it, but I didn't always have the time to answer the questions because I got to go with another patient, or I'm a little bit busy at the moment. But here's this information, so then Facebook was getting more popular, and so I was never really into social media, but I saw that, okay, here's a platform where I could provide some information and answer those questions. So I could just direct people there, like, hey, look, I'll answer that question. If you have more questions, just go to Facebook and I'll post some stuff there. So that's how it started. It was for my patients and anybody interested. But then as I started going in the career, I saw more and more of that. So I said, you know what, yeah, let me just keep building at this thing and see, because I like to help people. And then I learned to do Instagram, and I learned how to upload videos to YouTube. And then, I learned how to build websites, so all that is me. I've done it, with little to no experience. So it's very possible for anybody to do that. But yeah, yourxraytech.com. I built that for anybody who's interested in the field, people who are in the field, right? Because let's say you're an X-ray tech, you got 10 years experience, but you never did mobile. Right. So we could all learn from each other, So I have great guests on there, who are teaching me things as well. And I'm just trying to share with everybody else. Look, here's what I learned. Here's, some more information. And really, we're at the very beginning of it. Like, there's still so much that I want to put out, so much that I could show people and we could learn. COVID, right, is a whole thing by itself, right? But not just that, every modality we could learn a lot from. So that's my goal for yourxraytech.com, is just to provide information. I also offer live courses now. every Tuesday I do a live course,
Mhm.
and you could actually ask me questions, and I'll respond as best as possible. So if you're interested in the field or you're in the program, I highly recommend it because I could help you increase your GPA, or I could help you increase your scores for the ART. So that way, when you go and sit down for it the very first time, you pass it the first time, and you could move on with your career rather than worried about, I didn't do so great, and now I got to retake it, and where do I start? Where do I go? What do I study? So yeah, I want to help people who are interested in the field, who are in the field, in any which way I can. So I have all those sources. So
That's awesome, man. I think it's great that you created that out of thin air, right? And I've had that too, where people ask you these questions and you want to give them so much information. I want to tell you so much right now about the opportunities and how to do things, but I can't because I got to run. I got to go do something, So we need a platform. We need something to host our ideas and our creativity so that it inspires, right? Other people. Guys, if you're listening out there, this is how I found Jason. I was on Instagram looking for different allied health careers and looking at people, and I came across your X-Ray Tech. And man, it is an impressive website. It's an impressive Instagram. The editing, I was telling him earlier, like on those the little Instagram posts that you put, and then it has like that X-ray sound, and it goes blink. It does like the flash. Man, that's so cool. I love that. So really quality content. And is there merch on there? Is that what you're wearing? That shirt? I
Yeah,
see
thank
that.
you. So, all right. So I was big into fashion, right? Music and fashion was my thing. Um, and then, I get into healthcare, and it's just all scrubs,
Right.
right? And, 4 days a week, 5 days a week, I'm wearing scrubs. Next, it's 6 days a week, 7 days a week. I look in my closet, and what I wear for the weekend,
Yeah.
or what I wear to the store, So um, I decided, let me build a brand for myself, something I love, you know, and it represents what I do. But not only radiology, but healthcare in general, right? Because you see somebody in scrubs, they're in healthcare. But what if when they're out of scrubs? How do you know, or how do you represent that you're in healthcare? So I decided to build this brand, X Unknown. So X is the symbol for unknown. So X-rays actually stand for unknown rays, because when they were discovered, they didn't
Right.
really know what they were. So, Rankin decided, let me just name them unknown rays for now, you know.
Mhm.
So I started this brand last year during the pandemic, which there was a lot of unknowns. We didn't know what was going on, what was going to happen. And I said, you know what, I'm going to do this at this period of time to give hope, and thank all the healthcare professionals,
Mhm.
because there was a lot of that, but there was a lot of saying thank yous but not really showing the appreciation.
Mhm.
So that's kind of my motivation behind this brand. And in fact, if you join as a platinum member as your X-Ray Tech, you get a free shirt, this exact
Oh,
shirt
awesome.
here. So I encourage y'all, get it. Platinum member, I'll mail you one of these out at no extra charge. So
Awesome.
yeah.
That's really cool, Jason. Awesome. Before I let you go, do you have any last remarks or words of inspiration, or anyone who's looking at this video and is thinking about joining X-Ray or signing up for that program? What would you tell them to inspire them?
Okay, so I always had an idea that healthcare was a good option, regardless of what you want to do. So allied health is very, very important, and I thank Eddie for doing this, and I appreciate it. You're helping out a lot of people. Like, keep doing what you're doing, because I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing, because that's what I want to do. Right, leave a mark. Whatever I could do for the field. So continue watching Eddie and everything he's doing.
Thank you.
If you're interested in radiology, or you just want to know more, then yeah, continue. I'll put out content, right? I don't mind. I'm going to keep putting out stuff. But healthcare, if you look at it, we got hit with the pandemic, and this thing hit really hard, and it hit a lot of people very hard. But there was a lot of security as far as jobs and stuff in healthcare still.
Mhm.
In fact, it probably even grew. And Eddie's right. I see more growth in it. I see more growth in it. So it's a nice and exciting field, you know. So highly recommend that you think about it. So there's that, and you're helping people. So if you're somebody that likes to help people, and you want to do something that you're gonna feel good at the end of the day, you know, never mind the paycheck, that's great too, but just the feeling that you get at the end of the day or after helping a patient, it's there's no price to it. It feels really good helping people in your community, and you know, knowing healthcare, you know. So I think that
Definitely.
yeah.
That's a great answer. Wow, Jason, this was awesome. I feel like me and you really connected. This is the first time that we've talked, and I think me and you have similar ideals and goals. So I hope you continue to do what you're doing. Everyone out there, make sure you check out Your X-Ray Tech on Instagram, yourxraytech.com. I might have to pick up one of those shirts. And to be honest, man, you got me thinking about X-ray, because this is a whole field that, you know, I've had an interest in it, but I've never followed it. So who knows? Maybe I'll be there with you and I'll come to you for some advice. But I hope you go on to inspire and continue to do things for other people. So yeah, I think that was great. Round of applause, Jason. Everyone out there, thank you for tuning in. This is Allied Health Mentors. We talk about allied health careers, professions, opportunities. Go ahead and like, share, subscribe. Stay safe out here. Jason, you just had that winter storm.
Yes.
How are you doing? You okay? Are you recovering?
Yeah, you know, being prepared, man, you know, it's something that not a lot of people do. You know, you might seem crazy sometimes to be prepared. But yeah, we got hit hard. The whole state got hit hard, and you know, shout out to Texas, Texas strong. You know, you could see people never really gave up. Everybody kept trying, and there was really no, you know, we weren't sure when this thing was going to be over, but we stayed focused. We stayed, you know, doing the best we can, and we're still not completely out of it. I mean, you can still go to the store today and there's, you know, no milk, no eggs, you know,
wow.
the basics,
Yeah.
right? Things that we take for granted. But we're doing well. Thanks for asking. The family's good. We're, you know, we're making the
Good,
best
man.
out of the situation. Everybody else is still struggling. Just stick, you know, stay in there and don't give up.
Well, stay strong, Jason. Everyone else out there in Texas, stay strong. You know, sending thoughts and prayers. And, you know, if I could, I'd be out there and help you myself. But thanks, man. Guys, this is Allied Health Mentors. Thank you for tuning in, and stay safe. We'll see you soon.
All right.
Bye.